Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you here this happy Tuesday, April 14th, just past 10 o'clock. We're here to participate together, to join together, to have our experience with lesson 96 of A Course in Miracles. I'm going to do what I always do, which is just to read the lesson and then invite us to just sit with the lesson. And what I've done for us today, which I do often, is to just look at the word salvation. And so I've gone through the glossary of A Course in Miracles and found the word salvation in as many places as I can. And what I'm going to do in this meditation, it's going to be a bit of a guided meditation in that I'm just going to read into the silence what A Course tells us about salvation. And I will leave moments in between what I read so that we can sink into the words and just contemplate them together. And then we'll move out of that and come back into the moment of just being together and share whatever we want to share. So take this time. I know it's later for Alka than it is for most of the rest of us. Let the day go, whatever the day has brought to you thus far, whatever yesterday has brought to you, whatever the night brought to you. Let's just take this time and look at this lesson together. And I'm going to shut my video off and we'll begin. So breathe in the normal way, whatever your breath is, move to take you wherever, however. Let your shoulders relax. Let your breath be as it is. And let your tummy relax. And soften your eyes. And soften your throat. And soften the shoulder blades, the space between them. And soften your tongue. Soften your heart. Salvation comes from the one self. Salvation comes from my one self. Although you are one self, you experience yourself as two, as both good and not good, as loving and unloving, a thinking mind and a body with senses. You like some things and dislike others. You feel yourself to be safe at times and unsafe at other times. you know who you are, and then you feel confused about your identity. One moment may seem to bring happiness, and the next moment, anxiety or even rage. The sense of being split into opposites creates a cycle of confused and often frantic attempts to reconcile the contradictory aspects of self-perception. Enormous energy is required to maintain a semblance of balance. But salvation comes from my one self. Everything you perceive as the outside world is merely your attempt to maintain your ego identification. For everyone believes that ego identification or the ego itself is salvation. Everything you perceive as the outside world is merely your attempt to maintain ego identification. Where everyone believes that identification is salvation. Yet this world is only in the mind of its maker, along with his real salvation. This world is only in the mind of its maker. Now is the time of salvation, for now is the release from time. Reach out to all your brothers and touch them with the touch of Christ. In timeless union with them is your continuity, unbroken, because it is wholly shared. In timeless unity with them is your continuity, unbroken, because it is wholly shared. Salvation is a collaborative venture. Salvation is a collaborative venture. Uniting the will of the sonship with the will of the Father is salvation. Your problem in accepting salvation is the problem of this world. God's will is your salvation. Would He not have given you the means to find it? If God wills you to have it, God must have made it possible and easy to obtain. Yourself does not need salvation. Your true self does not need salvation. But your mind needs to learn what salvation is. Salvation is for the mind, and it is attained through peace. This is the only thing that can be saved, and the only way to save it. Salvation is simple, transparent. It is the recognition of the one self. It is not something we become. It is something we already are. You may mistake the absence of all experience for consciousness itself. Be aware that even the absence of experience is still known by consciousness. Cease looking, and in the silence, there is the experience of self-knowing. That is its own light. Rest in being. Each one of us desires three fundamental things: to feel loved, to feel safe, and to feel free. The one self knows itself loved and loves all its creations. The one self knows itself safe, for what could make unsafe the absolute eternal? The one self knows itself free, for what could contain the unlimited? Salvation is for the mind, and it is attained through peace. This is the only thing that can be saved, and the only way to save it. Salvation comes from my one self. Cease looking, cease doing, and rest in being. As you move throughout the day, stop as often as you are moved to do so, and repeat the lesson in your mind. Salvation comes from my one self. Feel yourself now inside the body, and notice that you're aware of the body. Notice your breath. Feel your feet on the floor. And like yourself, and when you're ready, come back and we can talk about this lesson together. How did you experience your one self in this little meditation? Were there things that competed for your attention? Was there one line that was read that resonated with you? Good morning, Livy.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. The one line I guess that really stuck out to me was the how I can separate myself within myself and that split, that you were talking about. And I'm really recognizing that when those thoughts appear or the voices, when the voices appear, that the conditioned voices, you know, um, and opening up the space for love. I used to be fearful of the voices, try to resist the voices. I needed to do something to change, to make them quiet. That's a lot of the reason I drank was just to shut the voices up. And today I'm learning to, through true meditation and other things, to just sit and allow love to heal all that. I need do nothing, and just be with what is and understand and allow, the divine love to do the healing and the divine love to be present and not resist those voices anymore. Just to allow love to come in and face those negative voices, negative conditioning with the love that they never got. They are what I interpret to be survival mechanisms that worked until they didn't work anymore. And to be able to learn and just to, even my own body can separate me from in the way because for decades I was in defense mode all the time. And the mantra that's been going through my head recently is in my defenselessness, my safety lies,
Mm.
you know, and really being that like a mantra. And my friend did pass, and what a journey that was to get to be with her on that.
Mm.
And just to allow whatever is coming up around that to come up around that, you know. And the good, the bad, and the ugly. I mean, it's interesting how all feelings come up, not just sadness or sorrow, but there's a little anger in there. There's some still hidden resentments that I didn't know were still there, and being with them and not resisting. I had heard for a very long time, what you resist persists. And, I can hear all that I want to hear or that I'm privileged to hear. And as Cindy so beautifully puts it when she says, when it drops in. And I always have to do that when I do it because I love the way she does that. But just allowing and without fear or without thinking something needs to be different. And just to be able to be with and know that I'm not alone in that. One night I had when the reality of her death really sunk in, and it got primal one night, just the intense pain of grief. And I felt love's presence holding me through that. And so I'm never alone in anything that I experience. And the comfort that came from that was just there aren't even words for, you know. So there's nothing that I have to walk through alone. And so I'm grateful for the mantras that the lessons give me to take throughout the day, to pause throughout the day when I feel something come up. Um, so I'm real grateful for the willingness these days to sit with what is instead of trying to run from it or think it needs to be different or judge it endlessly. And yeah, that one line is what really stuck out for me in the meditation. So thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you. I love that lesson. In my defenselessness, my safety lies. That's a great one. Uh, it's funny how the different lessons just arise in awareness at certain times, and they're almost like a refuge. In my defenselessness, my safety lies comes up for me sometimes, and I don't even know that I'm being defensive. I don't even have a sense that I'm defending myself against anything. And yet, as soon as I say that lesson, there's peace. Right? It just, things just unfold in the silence. Thank you, Livy. Cindy, you're up next.
First, I don't know if you could read it, but I don't know if you could see it.
In my defenselessness, my safety lies. Yep.
Showed up in the middle of my contemplation this morning. That was the only Course in Miracles statement in all of the writing this morning.
Hmm.
I'm not at all surprised. Um, Thank you, Amy. I'm in an altered state. I'm not complaining. I'm just stating that if this is what being drunk is like, then I could be drunk forever. You said, um, when I go blank, I know that there's something that I want to know. You said that there were three things that we all want that the one self has. We want to be loved. We want to feel loved. We want to feel safe, and I can't grasp the third thing.
We want to know ourselves loved. We want to know ourselves safe. And we want to know ourselves free.
Free. I'm finding it interesting that I can't hold on to that last one. Um, yeah, it's like a sieve. We want to know ourselves, and I understand that the one self already knows these things, which is kind of cool. I'm just I'm very grateful. We want to know ourselves loved. We want to know ourselves safe, and we want to know ourselves free. And I am inspired to ask you, maybe in context to some of the things that you were pointing out and asking yesterday about this journey, which also I want to confess feels like a sieve here. So I know there's something important here. You were asking some questions yesterday that Lonnie called the deep dive into, and I want to confess that there's something that's going unconscious about that question. And maybe it has something to do with liberation and freedom. Maybe it's something else, but I am inspired to state that there's something that is attempting to create a fog-like defense mechanism in my defenselessness, my safety lies. And so I want to just say it again, and then I would love to hear whatever it is that's coming up for you as I'm saying these things. I want to know myself loved and the one self knows love, is of with love. I want to know myself as safe. And where I'm defenselessness, there is no question of safety. And I want to know myself as free. Yeah, something finds that very frightening. Yeah, anything you'd like to say about that? I'm feeling hazy and foggy and beyond grateful.
Thank you. Well, as most of you know, I tend to be a spiritual explorer, sometimes to my own detriment. So if I see a barrier in my inward deep dive, I want to go through it. I want to approach it. And that sounds almost paradoxical. So there have been times in my inward contemplation when I reach the point where there's just emptiness. There's no thought. There's no object. There's just emptiness. And then there is a feeling of desolation because the mind does not like emptiness. And it does not like no objects. It does not know how to identify itself if there's nothing to identify with. And so what arises there is a sense of desolation. And then there is confusion because there is the question, is consciousness, this emptiness, this place of no objects and no place and no time, is it just nothing? And then I don't have to, then there is the awareness that something is aware of the desolation. Something is aware of the emptiness. And that's the one self. That's the consciousness. And it's unending and boundless. And that's where the freedom is. Free to experience anything. Free to know itself, the awareness of all that arises. And it's actually safe as well. How could it not be? But I will say in all truthfulness that I will push and push to that place of silence and emptiness. And there are times when it feels like the nothingness is desolation. And my journey, and part of the reason that I am interested in sharing and talking about this with those who are also inner explorers, is what their experience is, because salvation is a collaborative venture, right? And so that's my answer. It's the best I can do. Thank you, Cindy. John, and then Patricia.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for the conversation and query. I'd like to chime in, if I may, on the freedom thing as it arises, because that was a question, and I think it You spoke to freedom, to this, that, and everything. And for me, what I also heard you say is push, push, push. You know, and I think the key is that in pushing to get clarity on something that's foggy, is to keep on pushing. And along those, there's questions to free to do what? Freedom from what? I got to inquire, what do I want to be free from?
Absolutely.
And free to be, do, or have what? This is a huge, big push inquiry here, and I got a massive download when I was watching Livy's Pussycat come set on the desk, and you know, just utilize his stuff. Just looking at that cat, the cat was staring at Livy, was just observing, like just observing. You know, I mean, just observing. You know, and I thought that was so beautiful. You know, and you know, with this come from before, we say observing, but what am I? What am I evaluating as I observe? What am I judging? What am I criticizing as I observe? Can I be like that cat and just be curious? Like, what the hell is Livy doing sitting there, gabbling away? You know, and just, you know, it's just a cat. Can I have a cat mind for 5 minutes or 2 minutes or 1 minute or 5 seconds? What a gift.
Yeah.
Well, what a gift. So basically, that's my story. The thing that I did want, because you asked for it, Amy, was what sentence came, and I think this world is only in the mind of its maker. Just to remind myself of that, you know. And what followed that, Amy, was the for some unknown reason, just the story of the prodigal son, you know, and just thinking about the son that stayed with the father. And they're seeing the son come back, this asshole who's disappeared when he was needed, blah, blah, blah. And he's coming back, and the other son is saying, you know, oh my God, you want him back? What about me? You know, what about me? I've been with you all the time. And I'm just thinking, oh, you know, so the separation that exists in that, even in talking to the father, you know, I've been here with you all the time, yet I got a judgment against this, or an evaluation against my brother coming home. You know, so it's very slippery, Amy, for a very slippery little game we're playing here. So the world is only in the mind of its maker, and how can I share the mind of the maker? You know, and you said that in the same, in similar words, the will of the Father and the will of the Son together. So thanks for this. My point was not to talk too much, but just to express how much I'm grateful for this, the training wheels that allow me to keep on questioning, you know, oh, I got to push here, I got to push there, but can I just do it? And how am I pushing it? Can I be like Livy's cat? So that's it. Thank you. I'll turn the question over to somebody else.
That was beautiful self-inquiry, John. Thank you for that. Great questions. Beautiful. Yeah. Patricia, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Good to be here. You know, salvation is a collaborative effort, and here we are. So I'm very grateful for that. Thank you all. Thank you, Cindy. What I was thinking about was what you were talking about, Amy, is that going into that very peaceful place, that very deep place, and its darkness. And at first I found it frightening. And then as I continue with this meditation of just being in the moment, just allowing the moment, and the darkness is there. And so my mind wants to add color. So sometimes I throw a little blue in, see how that feels. That's where I'm grateful for the mind. So I have a little blue in that darkness, and then I can let go and go deeper. And then sometimes it gets frightening again. And so I have this mantra I say, That's a centering prayer that Keating does. And the word that comes to mind is trust. I breathe in trust, and then when I breathe out surrender. So both of those go together so that I can be more present in that darkness. And that's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
That's
So
beautiful.
I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. That breathing out and surrendering is such a gift. And we can't make it happen. It just happens on its own. And there are times when the emptying is so profound and it's really the emptying. We are just pulled into the emptying, and it's a fullness. It's not a desolation, it's a full emptiness.
I'd like to add one more thing. I'm in my studio and I have sayings on the wall. And this is from Rupert Spira. Happiness is simply to allow everything to be exactly as it is from moment to moment. That's
And isn't that the one self?
that's
That's
it.
really the salvation of the one self.
Right.
Thank you. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Thank you, Amy, for that. I'm like Cindy, put me in a place of quietness and stillness. So thank you. I guess what I got was the one of the process or looking at reaching out, reaching for that oneself versus, and better yet, recognizing that oneself is already, and then going from there, and I think all my past has always been to reach out for that oneself, to find it. Yeah. And so what you reinforced, I guess, is that oneself, it's the starting point. What does the lesson say? There's no distance or time where it's already. And I think what helped me with that, what John's also was the same thing. Yet this world is only in the mind of the creator. And I am in the mind of the creator. So that kind of helped me recognize that where my starting point is already, that I am in the mind of the creator. The creator is me, or is in my mind, and then go from there. And then also the last part, I really identified with the meditation and getting down into the quietness. My goal was always in the past, in the meditation, was to get down into that total stillness, that total quietness, that between the thoughts, to get there. It's always been the goal. And recently my experiences, I have been able to do that. But I have not been able to take the steps beyond that. And so this was very interesting when because I find myself in the emptiness and basically in the back of my mind saying, there is nothing is, I open these doors like, what's the next step? Or, I want to get beyond this empty. There's nothing here. I finally got to this place and it's empty. So to get to that next step, to go beyond that, whether it's putting shades of color in it or saying a mantra, which I then do go into more of a superficial thing, or whatever that next step is, I guess, is yeah. Thank you for that recognizing, going back to recognize that I'm the one self there, whatever. But I could identify with the quietness, with the with the emptiness, and thank you for reminding me that there is next steps. And
Oh, no,
well,
Jerry, y- when the realization that I am the one self, and that there's nothing that I need to do, I don't have to search for it or seek for it, and I am that one self already, is probably one of the greatest discoveries that you can make. And the next step beyond that emptiness is to realize that it is the one self that even sees the emptiness. Right?
that was real helpful.
Yeah.
Wrote that down. I don't know if I
Yeah.
can find it.
And then just
Yeah, who is that awareness of this emptiness? Something like that.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Jerry. That was lovely. Thank you
Yeah.
for the share. Alka, good to see you.
Good morning, good afternoon. I was just going to say exactly the same thing you said, Amy, that having realized what you have, Jerry, and arriving at emptiness, I would not mess around with mantras and stuff that will take you right back into the mind. I should sit with the emptiness. And when you think you have to be somewhere else, that's your mind playing you. It will discard that thought. And the fact that you have realized that, you create the world. So sit with that, sit with the emptiness. Do not put any mantras into it. Do not feel that you have to be somewhere else. I've done that and I've wasted months. You really have to, what I've realized is the less you engage your mind, the better off you are. And this is your mind telling you that you have to be beyond. What does the mind know where you have to be? So I would just sit there and just watch what happens next without expectation. That's another mind engagement, waiting to see what happens. That's also the mind play. So that's all I have to say.
That's lovely. Thank you very much. This is so inspiring to me, these shares. I hope Lonnie will listen to this, because these shares are so wise, and the questions are genuine, and this is what it's all about. The other thing that I come back to, and this is a William, is that now is the time of salvation. Now, for now is the release from time. And that's a Patricia too. Good morning, William.
Good morning. And right now, it seems that I'm aware of what never changes. And as I'm saying that, I'm seeing that every one of you is not separate either. We're all in that space that never changes. And then I'm not that, I'm not that. The separation, there's no separation except my mind continues to play in the world of separation. But at least I can see it as I'm not that, I'm not that, I'm not that. I think I am. That's the separation. And then all of a sudden, I just know what never changes. There's nothing to do. It just never changes. And as I'm with anybody, to realize I don't, I exist, but there's no separation me, no separation you. We're both ultimately knowing there's that space of nothing ever changes. I just know it. I don't stay there. But I'm free now. I'm free to play in the world of words and thoughts, all the separation that the mind creates for those realities. And I know what doesn't change. So thank you for this space and the reminders, the reminders, the reminders. There is no separation. We are one. We are one. And I love the lesson you gave. I'm one with myself. Oh, shit. Yeah. Just observe and watch and watch and watch, and then go ahead and apply it. Either way,
Thank you.
Can't lose for winning.
Thank you. So the will of Source, we can call it God, whatever we want. The will of the One is salvation. It is the oneness. And our problem in accepting it is the problem of this world. Okay? Dispelling the sense of separation is salvation itself. And with that, I want to thank everybody for being here, and we're going to meet again in an hour for 12 stepping. Who's leading, Cindy?